They offer sacrifices on the mountaintops. The higher you are on the earth, the closer you will be to heaven. So that's why they would worship in those mountains, uh, in order to be closer to heaven, since they would see everything in a physical sense. They thought that would help, but instead they would actually get closer to different entities who inhabit mountains. Fallen angels are common to, once they fall to this reality, or evil spirits who are in this reality tend to hide or inhabit mountains. That's why many people speak of certain mountains who people think are haunted. That is because it is normal, it is very common for spiritual entities to live in mountains, caves, and stuff like that. So people would go to experience something spiritual through those entities living in those mountains, thinking that they were connecting to the heavens, not knowing that there was an entity there. And that's why they would feel connected to something. But it was because there was a fallen entity there in that mountain. So they would go and put idols. They still do. So that's why it says here, they offer sacrifices on the mountaintops and burn incense on the hills. For instance, Hebrews 13:15 says that we must offer sacrifice of praise, which is fruit of knowledge. Which is fruit of our lips that confesses his name. Fruit of our lips that confesses his name. That is sacrifice of praise. But they offer sacrifices of animals on the mountains. We must offer our praise of his name through our mouth to him who is on the top as the Most High. That is what we must do. But since they didn't understand, they took it the wrong way and would actually go to a physical mountain, to a physical or literal high place, and they would literally sacrifice a creature for that blood to do something in their lives, instead of confessing the name of him who gave his blood for our lives as the lamb that was sacrificed for us to reach the highest. And then burn incense. Incense represents the deeds of the righteous, when you do it right, of course, and prayer. Like you pray and it goes up like the smoke of the incense. Yet they pray to different names. That's why it is said here, and burn incense on the hills. Burn incense connected with fire. That's why the last, who is the consuming fire, is the one who comes as the incense, to make a connection through Yahushua with the Almighty for the people, and to fulfill the deeds that are needed to end this reality. They offer sacrifices on the mountaintops and burn incense on the hills, under oaks, poplars, and terebinths, because their shade is good. Those oaks, poplars, and terebinths, three, like the three satans that people worship depending on the religion, either Samael, Halel, known as Lucifer, or Azazel. No matter the doctrine, the religion in the world, every person worships one of those three. And those three obviously have many thousands of, depending on which one, demons, fallen angels, or fallen evil spirits that serve them. So depending on the person, and the religion, and the doctrine, and the god, and the idol, whatever, they are connected to an entity who is connected to one of these three. So that's why it is being mentioned three different types of trees that give shade. And the people of Israel would want to go under that shade instead of going under the shade of Elohim, meaning of the name Betzalel, under the shade of Elohim, of the Shaddai, as we read in Psalm 91. So they don't want to be under the shade of the Shaddai, not under the tree of life, but they want to be under the oak or the poplar or the terebinth. They want to be under the shade given to them by Samael or Halel or Azazel. That's what they rather, instead of the true doctrine. Because their shade is good, because they feel good. Not that it is good in the true sense, but because they see it as good, because they feel good, because they are given things of this world for their emotions, etc. So, and burn incense on the hills under oaks, poplars, and terebinths, because their shade is good. Therefore your daughters commit harlotry, and your brides commit adultery. That's why the congregations, by following false doctrines, go into a religion or a church where they believe that the shade is good because they see money, because they see people looking good with good clothing and with nice cars, and they got big houses. So they're like, oh, so the shade is good in this religion, in this doctrine, in this church. So I'm going to start going there because I want to be under that shade, under that unction, under that anointing, so I may get, according to what they believe, the same thing that the pastor is getting. So they see the shade as good. That's why they go under that tree and not realizing that they are worshiping false entities that have to do with this reality, and that's why they feel that the shade is good.